What's up everyone, it's time for my weekly Star Wars review of the Acolyte alongside some other news. So what unholy things happened this time? Is the show saved or did it somehow get worse? We'll look into that. Beyond this, Lucasfilm is allegedly going to use Luke Skywalker heavily to bring back the fandom in a big way. Ratings are dropping for Disney Star Wars, and even Elon Musk has attacked Kathleen Kennedy. It's a lot, so let's get into it. Firstly, episode 6 is more of a setup episode for what's clearly going to be a lot of things getting revealed in the final two. It's mostly an episode where a lot of philosophical things are said and then the groundwork gets laid down. It opens with Osha in Qimir's hermit hideaway. She walks past a cute little weird alien goober guy and finds May's belongings just sitting in the open. Here Osha is able to find May's knife, the same one she killed Trinity from the Matrix with. Osha then goes outside and it's shown that she's in the middle of nowhere on some faraway planet in the middle of the ocean pretty much. The location of where this place is actually called Unknown Planet, so where is it? No idea, couldn't tell you. Osha then sees Qimir conveniently walking nearby and then walks quietly behind him. Then it cuts to Squid Game guy contacting the Jedi Council saying it's emergency code 0 and confirms to the Council that his entire squad got wiped out by Qimir. May shows up walking slowly towards Sol holding another knife, and then Sol says without looking to tell May to drive the ship while he goes to do something, so she quickly puts her knife away and then just does what he says. Sol then goes into the main room to slam his hand down on a console and looks sad. Probably regretting being stupid enough to let Qimir get away because he's a dummy, but the plot needs to happen, so what are you gonna do, I guess? We then see Basil, the weird alien badger thing, holding onto Pip, which is Osha's little droid guy, and he puts it into the console of the ship to recharge. Then it shows Qimir getting butt-ass naked and walking into the water, and we see a huge scar on his back. Osha sees that Qimir's belongings alongside his lightsaber are there, and then she goes to grab it. Qimir obviously knows that she's been there the whole time. He asks Osha how does it feel to hold a lightsaber and then compliments her on her stance. Osha and Qimir have a back and forth, but basically Qimir says he doesn't find the Jedi honorable at all and confirms that he actually can't read minds. Which doesn't make any sense since Yord said that Qimir was getting into his head literally while he was fighting him in episode 5. So either somebody else was messing with Yord's head during that fight, or Yord is a dumbass, whatever, he's dead anyway, thank God. Qimir then tells Osha that she's not a prisoner and that Sol is alive and he didn't kill him since Osha was obviously knocked out and wouldn't know. Osha asks Qimir what does he really want, and he says that he wants his own pupil, or an acolyte. It then cuts to Sol and May, and Sol hugs May, saying that he is sorry that he couldn't save her sister. Sol apparently still doesn't realize that this isn't Osha. Sol then says that he's sorry that Qimir ruined their lives, and Sol will admit everything to the Jedi Council. What exactly is he referring to here? It then cuts to Leslie Headland's wife, who is playing Jedi Master Vernestra, who gets a status report from her British Jedi friend. They have Sol's coordinates and are now going to leave to find him. Sol's ship has apparently lost power all of a sudden, which is due to May screwing with stuff intentionally aboard the ship. So Vernestra launches a rescue mission to save Sol as he's stranded in space, and then we go back to Osha and Qimir. Qimir then confirms that he was a Jedi at one point in his life, and then Osha says that Sol will save her, but Qimir tells her that she needs to stop putting faith in others and more into herself. Qimir offers her food, to which she declines. Then it cuts to May in the ship's core, and Basil, the weird badger alien thing, attacks May, steps on her toe, and then Pip shoots some sort of oil all over May's face. May then gets angry, grabs Pip, and factory resets him, turning his LED lights from blue to red. Get it? Because May is the evil sister, so Pip is now in her control, which is why its lights are now red instead of blue? Such amazing storytelling, guys, not at all on the nose here. Then it goes back to Qimir, who tells Osha that Jedi training means nothing apparently when it comes to wielding the Force. And all you really need is to have a really strong connection to the Force and your emotions, which is pretty lame, but Disney is basically confirming this is why Rey is so strong. She's not strong because of her training, she's just strong because of her connection to the Force. Cool. Not lame at all, guys. Qimir then tells Osha there's another way to power, and he hints at things like fear, rage, and so on. Yeah, he's talking about tapping into the dark side. But I thought the dark side wasn't bad, since Osha and Mei's lesbian moms both tapped into the dark side all the time and nothing bad happened. This show is dumb, man. Anyways, Qimir says it's semantics and that the dark and light are just two sides of the same coin and neither really matter, which is totally nonsense since it absolutely does. This is just the show trying to normalize being evil is totally fine because evil apparently doesn't exist anymore. Osha says regardless, Qimir killed her friends, and Qimir says he only killed them because they were a threat to his life at the moment, which I mean he's right. And that Jackie dying should remind Osha that it could have been her that died instead. And that how Jackie died is likely how Osha will go if she keeps following the Jedi without asking any questions. Qimir then walks up to Osha and tells her to turn the lightsaber on and kill him, but she refuses to because he is unarmed. Again, Jedi are not unarmed ever, people. These people can throw stuff with their minds and do crazy shit regardless. Their entire body is a living weapon. The whole concept of they're unarmed is stupid. They're your enemy. He killed your friends. It's like all the characters in this show are suffering from The Last of Us Part 2 syndrome or something. They just refuse to take revenge because revenge is bad. Idiots, man. Everybody in this show is stupid besides Qimir. I really don't like these Force twins. Every episode they keep proving how dumb they are, and somehow they keep achieving new levels of stupidity. Anyway, Qimir says that Osha is afraid, and she should abolish the Jedi cause they threw her away. To which Osha says she left the Jedi because she failed at becoming one. Osha then turns the lightsaber on and puts it at Qimir's throat in a fit of rage. Then comes the one part of the episode where Qimir actually drops facts, which is where he tells Osha that once you lose everything that you love, that you're finally free, and I agree with him on this one. As someone whose father died of alcoholism and I had to deal with all of the fallout of that stuff and had to rebuild everything while keeping my mom from losing her house, I understand this greatly. Losing what you deem to be so important to yourself is honestly one of the hardest and greatest lessons that life can teach you. When I lost my dad, it felt as if I lost a part of myself, that security, the safety that no matter what, everything would be alright. But once he passed, it was this explosive realization that as a young man, I now knew there was nothing left to truly save me anymore. No one could hold me up when things got bad or bleak, and that ultimately, if I didn't make something out of myself, I would drown in the tides of life. So what Qimir said here, to me anyways, is true, and I agree with him. And it's the single moment of this entire series that felt profound to me because I actually know what it's like. But the strength and drive that you gain from that loss of security, it's unlike anything I can even explain to someone who hasn't gone through it too. It's like being reborn. You just become something more. I don't know how else to describe it. Again, this is why Qimir is the single best character in the show, because he's actually interesting. He's just unfortunately surrounded by lesser interesting characters. Qimir and Sol are the only redeeming qualities here. Sadly, we have to deal with these moronic twins instead. But the whole you are free when you lose everything, it's true. The previous me before my dad died, that was a feeble and weak boy. It's incredible how strong you can become when life punishes you. Anyways, back to Star Wars. Didn't mean to get all introspective and whatnot with you guys, but if you still have your parents in your lives, cherish it. And if you don't, you know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? Just remember, there's no way back but forward, so let's keep pushing. Back to the Acolyte, Vernestra makes it very clear to the viewer that she obviously knows more than she's letting on. And whatever has happened here has spooked Vernestra, and it's likely her and Sol are complicit in some sort of crime that involves Qimir, Mei, Osha, or all of them. I don't know. Mei then interrogates Sol about what happened on Brendok, where her lesbian space moms died during a fire she started in a citadel made of stone because nothing makes sense anymore. Sol then is about to tell her, but then the power conveniently comes on the ship again and then he stops talking. Mei then runs to check comms, and then Sol shoots Mei in the back with a knockout gun, confirming that Sol knew all along that Mei was not Osha. Sol then weirdly turns off the transponder, meaning that Vernestra and the Jedi cannot locate him now. Vernestra then decides to check on what happened in Kofar, which is the planet where episode 5 happened, where Qimir killed everybody like he was in a 1v9ing them in Fortnite or something. And then cuts to Qimir and Osha. It's nighttime now, and Qimir is fixing his weird Smilo Ren helmet. Osha then asks Qimir what he wants ultimately, and he says that he wants the power of 2, which is obviously that he wants to be a master to his own apprentice, or acolyte I guess. Qimir also confirms that the scar on his back was caused by someone who betrayed him, which he alludes was a Jedi that threw him away when he was no longer useful. He also confirms that the Smilo Ren helmet uses the cortosis material, which if you don't remember is an extremely rare material that can disrupt lightsabers, and Qimir says the helmet is equivalent to sensory deprivation when he wears it. It completely blocks out everything except his connection to the Force, so when he fights while wearing it, he is in a sense hyper-attuned to the Force, meaning he becomes deadlier and can react to his enemy's movements in a much faster way. Qimir tells Osha to try the helmet on, but she refuses, and then it cuts to Vernestra now on Kofar, and she relives Episode 5 battle in her head and then shows Jeki and Yord who are dead, and Vernestra seems spooked, stating something has been put into motion that she needs to stop. She then confirms that the Jedi will bury the body, so at least these dead Jedi won't become skeletons laying in the open, I guess. Also, a bug attacks Vernestra and she pulls out her lightsaber whip, yes, a whip, and then she kills it. It's also the single action sequence of the entire episode, and no, I'm not kidding. Then it cuts to May now restrained to a table with Sol watching her. She demands to be set free, and Sol says that he will once he saves Osha and that he wishes to speak to May, stating that her and Sol need to talk about what happened 16 years ago on Brendok. The final sequence of the episode is Osha now alone in Qamir's quarters staring at the cortosis helmet. She walks up to it and starts to touch the helmet's exterior, feeling the scars of the helmet from the many lightsabers that have damaged it over the years. She then picks the helmet up, places it on her own head, and the screen goes dark and we hear Osha breathing quietly, and the episode ends. Which I guess is alluding that Qimir is getting through to Osha and she is starting to turn to his side. And his acolyte might end up being Osha and not May, which is a twist I guess, but we got 2 episodes left. And I doubt it's enough time for Osha to suddenly turn heel and become a badass Jedi killer. I just don't really see it happening. More likely, Osha will connect to May via the sensory deprivation of the helmet and somehow hear what Sol says or something about Brendok, which is kinda dumb but would be convenient for the show. Overall, it's just a setup episode. Nothing too bad happens, well, not at first glance anyways, but like I said, it's more of a setup episode akin to episode 4 as well. If this means that episode 7 will be more like episode 5, then that'll at least mean there'll be more action, hopefully. This show has a tendency to blue ball the viewer with nothing, then explode, then revert back to blue balling. It's annoying, to say the least. Overall, the episode sets up some decent story arcs, but I don't know if it'll pay off or not. I did read recently that Leslie Headland confirms that there will be another Sith on the show at some point besides Qimir, and I low-key am worried that they'll somehow tie Qimir to Darth Plagueis or even Sidious somehow. Regardless, we know the end result of the show will be that none of these characters live on necessarily in any meaningful way, since they don't show up in anything else post-Acolyte like Phantom Menace or anything else obviously. Well, unless your name is Ki-Adi-Mundi, I guess. Everyone else, pretty much? No, not really. Was it a good episode? It was fine. A lot of talking. Thank God for coffee is all I'm gonna say. Because otherwise, I would have gone Betty Buys like twice at least during this episode. Anyway, that's episode 6, and now let's move on to other stuff. In other news, let's look into this whole Luke Skywalker nonsense from that park place. Rumor, Luke Skywalker to make appearance in Dave Filoni's Ahsoka Season 2. So this article has a lot of juicy information about the alleged future of Disney woke wars, and it's quite a lot to go over. I think it's objectively true to admit that the season finale of Mandalorian Season 2 where Luke Skywalker shows up to save Grogu was awesome. Like, that single moment united the entire fanbase in a way I don't think we've seen ever since. Anyways, Disney is getting desperate according to new rumors and will now mine the corpse that is Luke Skywalker into making you care about Star Wars again. This comes from a friend of the channel, WDW Pro. Here's what he had to say. It's a lot, and I quote, "According to a source that I have, Dave Filoni may be preparing to have Ahsoka now defeat Abeloth in Ahsoka Season 2 or at least face off with her. Not sure what the result will be, but I am hearing that Luke Skywalker will make an appearance. Whether or not he is a part of the fight, Ahsoka seems to be the one that will take down Abeloth, but this is also related to the Mandalorian movie. What I'm hearing is that Dave Filoni may be getting visits these days from folks from Burbank or at least with virtual conferences. And the reason might be that the Acolyte was the final nail in the coffin. They're spooked over at Disney, they've seen, they've heard, and they've watched enough. They're ready for people to watch Star Wars again, and so there may be an effort to move this franchise back to Luke Skywalker. And what I'm being told is that while you probably will see Luke Skywalker in Season 2 of Ahsoka, you're really going to see Luke Skywalker in some other stuff. And that they may be preparing for a heavy push of Luke Skywalker even if Kathleen Kennedy doesn't like it. It doesn't matter anymore. This is a franchise that's going back to Luke. The source tells me to look back to what Favreau said originally when he came on board with Star Wars, telling Lucasfilm and Disney particularly that he thought he could help. And he says that you can expect this movie to be a return to the quality of the first 2 seasons, but most importantly, you might even consider this to be a Luke Skywalker movie. The source tells me that the delay from 2025 to 26 was largely because they did not believe that the level of Luke Skywalker that they want to use would be able to be completed in CGI with realistic appearances and all of that in the time frame that had been given. Favreau realizes the reaction to Luke Skywalker from the 2nd season and he wants that again for the movie. The source goes to such a degree as to say that we might even expect a scene, although folks remember this could be in the cutting of the editing room, we don't know. But the source says that he has knowledge, I don't know if he does or not, he says he has knowledge that there's even a scene where Luke Skywalker and Grogu might join their force powers together in battling some dark enemy, end quote. WDW Pro has been pretty spot on when it comes to his rumors and what he hears. He's accurately reported almost everything relating to Disney in many forms for years now. So if Pro says Disney is likely pushing for Luke Skywalker to save the franchise, I believe him and you should too. This is also supported by the fact that Joe Biden's #1 fan Mark Hamill himself recently tweeted this, which says, "This tweet will gain in significance when the movie I start today is publicly announced," which has led to many believing we could be seeing not only Luke Skywalker in his younger days, but likely in his older post-Return of the Jedi days as well. While Mark Hamill is a woke moron that literally worships the ground that Joe Biden walks on, it would likely be a good move by Disney to create some sort of Luke Skywalker story akin to the Obi-Wan show, but hopefully not as bad. Would that show be good? Probably not. Let's be real here. Disney has an almost kryptonite-like weakness to making actual good content these days. And since Mark Hamill is, like I said, getting more and more into politics, I wouldn't be surprised if he pitched a story to Disney where Luke fights some sort of Sith-like enemy we never heard of that is an analogy for Donald Trump. I genuinely would not be surprised at all to see this. I wish I was kidding, but come on guys, look into your hearts. You can see this happening too, sadly. Circling back a little during those rumors was Pro stating that Ahsoka will fight Abeloth, which is also very likely to happen. In case you don't know about the whole son, daughter, and father gods of Mortis thing, they're basically very old Force users that were aspects of the Force. It's really stupid all things considered, but basically the son is the dark side, daughter is light, and the father is the balance between the two. Anyways, Screen Time on Twitter also posted this rumor as well, stating that per rumors, Abeloth would also appear in Ahsoka Season 2. She's basically a servant of the Mortis gods who drank from the fount of power and submerged herself in the pools of knowledge. And this would pretty much turn the servant into a grotesque Lovecraftian monster-human hybrid thing that wants to destroy everything. Honestly, based on her looks from these pictures alone, I think seeing something this grotesque and creepy in Star Wars would be great. But then again, I'm a sucker for monster designs and I also love me some cool looking gross monsters in any form of media. Some of my favorite movie monsters are the Cloverfield Monster, Predator, Motor from The Ritual, and Rosie O'Donnell. Anyways, this Abeloth weirdo will apparently show up, which I say cool, let it happen at this point, let's just see how bad this could all get, I guess. As Pro stated, Disney is obviously getting desperate because what they're doing is not paying off. I mean, here's another report that states that over 60% of the viewership has already dropped The Acolyte, which also doesn't surprise me at all. According to Variety, The Acolyte has been steadily losing viewers week after week. They lost another 11% viewership with episode 5 compared to 4. This dropped the show to around 232 million minutes watched, which sounds big, but I should state that Ahsoka, which also underperformed, was hitting numbers equivalent to 3 or even 4 times this, so that tells you how poorly this is all doing. The most watched episode of The Acolyte was the 3rd one, which isn't surprising considering it's the one with the now infamous Power of Many cringe song, the lesbian space witches and all of that. So obviously it shot up in viewership because people wanted to see what was so bad about it. But like I said, clearly it isn't improving the show's views as it keeps failing off and for good reason. The Acolyte at this point pretty much just exists to be made into content for YouTubers, let's be real. Most of you aren't actually watching this show, you're just watching videos like this one because you get a condensed retelling of what happens without actually wasting your time, and honestly, I don't blame you. If I wasn't doing YouTube, I too wouldn't watch this slop, but alas I do, so here we are. Even fan interest is dwindling if we look at IMDb or the International Movie Database, where the first few episodes had fan reviews around the 20,000 to 18,000 mark. This eventually went down to 11,000 reviews for episode 4, and episode 5 is down to the 8,000 mark. So as you can see, people aren't even bothering to give their own reviews or opinions on the show anymore. The apathy is set in and the show is DOA. This report concludes that compared to Ahsoka, which had around 800 million minutes watched in its debut compared to the Acolyte's 210 million minutes in its debut, that if you take what's out right now for the Acolyte and then you place it up against Ahsoka, currently the Acolyte has a loss of viewership and engagement of around 59.7% overall. And I'm terrible at math, but even I can tell you fellas that that is not very good for Disney, and they are indeed resurrecting the corpse of Luke Skywalker. It would only make sense because they are losing money faster than Boogie2988 buying crypto at this point. The user ratings also keep dropping. It's at 14% right now. I'm sure it'll get even lower, but also Elon Musk has joined in on making fun of Disney. This is from Yahoo. Elon Musk slams Lucasfilm president for being woke, saying she is more deadly than the Death Star. Yahoo was surprisingly based in this article, and I was kind of taken aback by this. Was Yahoo always like this? If so, I apologize, Yahoo. I wasn't familiar with your game. I respect it, by the way. Also, Elon clowned not once, but 3 times on Disney's Lucasfilm. The first time when someone posted a meme and Elon said that Kathleen Kennedy is more deadly than the Death Star, which in terms of the popularity of a franchise plummeting, he ain't wrong. Another time when it was reported that Kathleen Kennedy was annoyed that Star Wars' fanbase is still predominantly male and continues to push a feminist agenda. To which Elon states that KK is super bigoted towards men, which I mean, he's not wrong. Look at everything Disney has done and try to refute his point, you really can't. It's obvious that Kathleen Kennedy hates men and she would love nothing more than for all men to die and be replaced by only women. Then another post stating that Disney has spent and lost over $11 billion in operating costs chasing the agenda, and Elon yet again swoops in to state, it is beyond parody at this point. Look, people hate Elon because he's based and also a shitposter, but you gotta hand it to the guy, he's right most of the time too. We should be in a second golden age of Star Wars right now, instead we're having eulogies and apathetic conversations instead. This whole thing is messed up and it's absolutely the people at the top's fault. But from episode 6 being quite of a snooze fest, Mark Hamill hinting at more Luke Skywalker and Elon Musk clowning on Kathleen Kennedy, yeah, Star Wars is not in a good place right now. Also, apparently the term Sith is considered a slur now in Star Wars, as if Disney couldn't make things worse if they tried, man. I am tired of all of this. But that's my weekly update video on Star Wars for you. A lot of nonsense and not enough good things happening. Will the Acolyte get better? Probably not. Will Luke Skywalker being shoehorned into new projects save Star Wars? Also probably not. But who knows? I guess we'll see, but we can all agree that Mark Hamill is indeed a dumbass and he should probably publicly acknowledge that he has a granddaughter finally. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, go Google Mark Hamill granddaughter. You're welcome, cause oh boy, that's a story alright. Anyways, thanks for watching, subscribe, share, like the video, thanks to my patrons as always, and have a wonderful day. May the Force be with you, or whatever Gandalf says in Power Rangers. That's a joke, by the way, don't flame me. Okay, and I'll see you in the next one.